Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. My name is Jessie Haas. I'm the Senior National Director of the Therapy Animal Program here at Pet Partners. And you are here listening to our quarterly Facebook Live where we cover news and updates from the Therapy Animal Program at Pet Partners. And so I want to welcome you. Thanks for joining us. It's always best for me when we're holding these lives to know who is on the other end of the screen. So if you could take a moment and in the comments, let us know where you're from, what kind of pet you have, what your relationship is with Pet Partners. So are you a volunteer, a prospective volunteer, somebody just interested in the work that we do? That would be super helpful to know. So like I said, this is a casual conversation during this live. I am going to share a few tidbits and behind the scenes and announcements from the Therapy Animal Program. I also have a colleague joining me, Dr. Taylor Chastain Griffin. She's going to talk for a little bit about some exciting news in the cat world and a little bit more about what she does here at Pet Partners. So we've got an exciting but casual, fun agenda today. As ever, please remember that you are welcome to ask any questions, share any thoughts that you have, whether it's about what Taylor and I are talking about or about something totally separate. This is a venue for you to connect with us and let us know what's on your mind. So I'm just going to check and see that we've got people dropping things into the comments. Great. It looks like we are live and people are hearing us. So keep those comments coming. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I'm actually going to let Taylor start. She's going to tell us a little bit about her role at Pet Partners, and then, like I said, some exciting stuff from the cat world. So take it away, Taylor.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me. It is always such a pleasure to be connecting with our therapy animal program. So, my role at Pet Partners is the National Director of Animal Assisted Interventions Advancement. So, in anything that we do that's research focused, I help create the coursework with some of my colleagues, and really just anything that we can do to increase the standard and rigor in the field that protects what we all love. That's part of my responsibility. But I have a history in the therapy animal program. I've been a volunteer for many years. I think I have 4 teams active right now. So I definitely appreciate all the work that you do. I am here today to talk to you all. You might have seen some news about this on our social media and in newsletters, but we have recently released a very exciting study focused on therapy cats. So if you're joining, and we love all species of therapy animals, like Jessie said, let us know you're here and what species you partner with. But we know that species like cats tend to be underrepresented. So we're going to see if we can pull up some slides here. And I'm just going to take a few minutes to go over general findings that are so exciting. And we have an opportunity I'll tell you about at the end of this short little couple minute presentation where we can dive into these findings more. So you can move to the next slide. So first of all, before I talk about the study and what we found, I have to give a huge shout out to our therapy cat teams. Our therapy cat teams at Pet Partners helped make this whole project possible. When we think about what we found, it's all because therapy cats around the country, around the world even, were willing to share their experiences. You guys participated in surveys, you helped share the surveys. It can be very hard to find the handlers for our less common species, and you helped get that news out. After that, you provided contact information for places that you visit with your therapy cats, which was so helpful. So often in the research in this field, we hear from the handlers, which is amazing and needed, but we have a hard time connecting with either the people who receive the visits or the facilities where the visits happen. And that can be data that really helps move us forward. It helps people take us seriously. And that was shared through our therapy cat handlers. After our surveys, there were opportunities to participate in interviews. They were often 1-hour interviews. That's what we scheduled. And then we ended up talking a lot longer than an hour because there was so much great stuff to dive in. And now we even have some of these participants helping us spread the word about what we found in press interviews. We have a team in Jacksonville going to do an interview soon about this study. So in all, we really are moving the field forward. So a huge thank you. I see that we have someone joining, Robert, who is a Siberian cat owner interested in volunteering. Cat's a bit young, but getting better as he matures. This is for you, Robert. We need more therapy cats. So you can go to the next slide. I also want to thank our partner in this project, a brand called Cat Person that launched in 2020. Cat Person reached out to us about this time last year saying, look, we care about cat owners. We're committed to simple, high quality cat care. There tends to be less options in the cat, food world than in the dog food world, it seems. And they saw that. So they have some really high quality products, and they reached out to us because they said, we set aside 1% of our sales to research the cat human bond. How can we partner? So they funded this study and have been incredible partners to work with. So big thank you to Cat Person as well. Can move to the next. Perfect. So I've hinted at this, but we need more research in the field of therapy animal work in general. I would love to research all aspects of what we do so that we can better champion and get people to take us as seriously as this intervention is. But the cat-human bond in the relationship is notoriously understudied, even outside of therapy animal work. When we're doing reviews of the literature, it's hard to find a lot of research out there that talks about our connections with cats. And in the world of therapy cats in particular, I've only been able to find one case study published on a cat acting as a therapy animal. So there was a huge need that we are addressing with this project. You can advance. So to give you just a little bit of back story, we touched on this when I was giving my shout out to our therapy cat handlers, but we had a mixed method study here, included survey data and interviews, so much data at the end, hundreds and hundreds of pages that we combed through to get to these findings. Now we'll dive into what exactly those were. There are way too many than I could cover in a few minute talk today, but if you'll advance, we'll start looking at just some of those. So the first group of questions we asked, knowing that there was such little information out there about our relationship with cats, was just, what is your relationship like with your pet? I bet Robert could tell us some of these same findings, but we found out that cats provided connection, playfulness, social support. There were some really rich conversations around cats during the COVID pandemic and what an essential support role they played. We also asked some questions about pet ownership. You oftentimes see in the research, there's this kind of tension between, we know pets are really good for us, but it can be hard work to have a pet. And so there's scales that encourage researchers to ask, is it more work than it's worth? And 100% of our participants said no. They do not feel like having a cat was a chore. They said their home would feel empty without a cat, that their cat is one of their best friends, that cats enrich their everyday lives. So at the very base of this study, we definitely found the benefits of cat ownership. You can go to the next slide. We also asked a lot about therapy cats in particular. So we found out that most of the therapy cats in our study were mature. So Robert, that tells you we have a young kitten, not uncommon for young cats to need to mature a little bit before they're ready to be a therapy cat. You can see just some other interesting information on the screen. 65% neutered males, 35% spayed females, over half were rescued, which I was really excited to see. And we had a wide variety of breeds. One of the most commonly talked about things, though, was that these handlers had a very well-established relationship with their cat. That's important no matter what therapy animal you work with. You can move to the next. We did ask, might be a little small on your screen, but where teams visited. And therapy cat teams are out all over. And we love to see that. Assisted living, homeless shelters, libraries, schools, hospitals. And so there's a wide variety of places, usually directed by the cat's interests, which is what we like to see here at Pet Partners. And we know that these teams are changing lives. We asked all kinds of variables. What do you see changed? And what was really interesting to me is that the handlers reported a lot of these changes, like decreased depression, decreased loneliness, but the facility contacts reported even higher levels than the handlers. They said, after a cat visit, our patients have less depression, less loneliness. And so that was a really exciting thing to see. I see Mo asking, do cats need to be neutered? It's not a program requirement, just happened to be in this case that most of them were. You can go to the next slide. Another interesting finding here is that 100% of our participants said that the clients were surprised to see a therapy cat. So when you see a cat walking down the hall, there was some of that shock factor that might have even given a special impact of the visit. It gave an opportunity for handlers to provide ownership, education about pet ownership. Many people talked about how clients would say, I'm having to be away from my pet right now, and I really miss them, and this is helping me a lot. There was a lot of people who talked about fear of cats. We had many people who would clients who would choose to overcome a fear of a cat through a therapy animal visit with one. And on kind of a flip side of that, there were many people who were scared of other species who might not have had AAI accessible if it was only dog teams. One trend in the participant feedback was that people who were shut down were kind of coming to life and socializing with these therapy cats present. You can advance to the next slide. We also saw that there were some special connections for cat lovers. So we asked questions about, did clients have more increased interest in cats over time or positive feelings about cats over time? And you see some really high numbers, especially from the handlers. They said we were kind of changing people's views on cats because they got to interact with a therapy cat. And some really great stories about how clients would open up with stories about their own animals or their own cats growing up. And this was really interesting. I hope you'll take a dive into the white paper. We'll put that link in the chat. But there were people with dementia who couldn't recall anything else really about their life, but they could recall either the therapy cat or stories about a cat growing up. Can advance. 100% of the facility contacts we talked to had a positive view of the therapy cat programming. That speaks to just what you guys are out there doing, the caliber of your work, and the impact of your cats. You can see some quotes there, maybe some facilities hesitant because they just didn't know cats could be therapy animals. But once they met the cat, it surpassed all their expectations. And as one facility contact said, this is a great opportunity for people who are not, dog people. We need more therapy cats to just serve a wider range of people. Can move to the next slide. We also asked a lot of questions about volunteering with your cat and what it does for your bond. 82% of our participants said that by volunteering with their cat, they strengthen their bond with their animal. So this is something that not only serves you and the people who you're working with, but when you're doing this work right, it also kind of gives you a special activity with your cat. You can see a quote there, but one participant talked about how this was their time together with their cat, and it really strengthened their relationship. They would have some special cuddles when they got home, which is what we love to see. On this next slide, we'll look at how our handlers protected their cat's welfare. I know I'm moving through this fast. Just want to give you a quick overview and then invite you to check out the white paper and join us for a second opportunity. We'll have to dive in. But we asked handlers, what do you do to protect your cat's welfare? They talked about giving breaks, cueing clients. We don't expect someone to know how to interact with our animals, so they walked them through that, providing comfort. And many clients or handlers, 68%, said they ended a visit when their cat showed that they needed a break, and that's what we want you to do at Pet Partners. We'll wrap it up here with just a few more slides. This is one of my favorite findings from the study, was just that over and over again, these handlers talked about how they were breaking the stereotypes related to cats. When you think of cats, you might think they're aloof or standoffish, that they're unaffectionate and not able to be trained. That is certainly not true. They're actually intuitive, eager to learn. They have unique personalities, and that's really something that was uncovered throughout this project. You can move forward. So at the end, there was this big call to action, as you can imagine. We need more awareness about the cat-human bond, and 100% of participants said, we need more therapy cats. I cannot keep up. Cat people at these facilities want cat teams. They talked about cats being the perfect size in many situations to kind of sit on a client's lap and have this calming energy. You can see there, we asked our participants to describe their cat's traits. So things like adaptable, curious, calm. So you can check out the white paper to read more about that and see if your cat might be a good fit for this work. You can go to the next slide. So finally, just invite you to join us. We're going to have a Pet Partners Therapy Cat Research Discussion Hour. You'll find the registration in your volunteer newsletter for December 6th. I'm going to take a deeper dive, take questions, have a discussion, and we'll really look at all aspects of this project. But really appreciate the opportunity to come in and talk about what we found and make the call. We need more therapy cat teams, so we hope you'll join us.
That's great. Thanks, Taylor. I was thinking when you said people report being surprised. I've been working at Pet Partners for 8 years, and I ran into a Pet Partners therapy cat at the Minneapolis airport, and I was like, what's the cat doing there? Even me. And then processed, this is our team, this is a therapy cat, reducing traveler stress. So I definitely have experience with that. I noticed there were a couple of comments from Mo here. I will say my thoughts on these, and maybe you have some too, Taylor, but Mo is saying, you know, sometimes it's hard to sell facilities on non-canines, whether it's for allergy reasons or because their perception is that this isn't an affiliative animal that can bond with people. That is true. There are some facilities who have species restrictions, but there are also a lot of facilities that have species preferences. There are some who really want to have a cat. They are searching for a cat or a rabbit. So it kind of balances out to a degree. And what we try to do here, like when I'm approached by a facility who maybe wants to sign a contract, and maybe in that contract they say something about species and maybe they have dogs only, I ask them why. What are your concerns? How can I help you perhaps welcome at least one or two more species? And a lot will come around as well. So I don't know if you have any comments on that, Taylor, in terms of facility perception of non-canines.
Yeah, it came up when we talked to our facility contacts too, because they talked about it took a little bit more of a push or of you know, they had to come around to the idea. One thing that really helped though is when we empower our facility contacts with how to screen clients. Like here's how we can screen for allergies, and then create a space in your facility where people are self-selecting to come visit with a cat. So we're not going to have, you know, you're not going to have people who don't want to be around a cat. And almost every single facility contact and almost all actually participants said after one visit with a cat, all those barriers went away. So if we can just encourage them to try one new creative way to let a cat in or any other species, I think you'll find that they're going to ask you to come back.
That makes great sense. Mo, I also see here that you're asking about names of facilities that request cats. I don't have them in front of me. I am more than happy. Bree, you can drop my email address in here. I am okay with that. I can let you know. Obviously, it's geography specific, right? So it may or may not be a fit for people in your area if this facility isn't in an area. The majority of facilities are open to all species. The majority are open. There are some that restrict and then some that prioritize less common species. Particularly with rabbits, we see it when the facility knows they have a student. Usually it's a student, a child who is not down with dogs. Then they'll usually say, may we request a cat or a rabbit? So we do see that sometimes. So Marcy, you said here, have them contact a facility that accepts cats and rabbits. So that's a really good point. We could probably do a better job, and maybe some of Taylor's research will allow us to just pull stuff. Like when we are talking to facilities or talking to volunteers who have cats who might be running into trouble, give them some quotes, give them this research. This is why research is so important, because before this, to Taylor's point, with sort of the lack of solid information about cats, all we could say is no, trust us, they're great and everybody loves them. But now we have actual information to give facilities who might be resistant. So okay, I'm going to move on from cats. I've got a few other things, but Taylor's going to hang around. So if you have more questions about her role, the research, what we're doing with cats are going to be a big focus in 2024. She can answer those questions. So the first thing I want to remind folks of, this came through a number of different volunteer communications, but always helpful to use this venue to remind people, we are no longer requiring that you upload your score sheets when you register with Pet Partners as a new team or a renewing team. This was us responding to feedback over years, really, that our registration process took longer than people expected. The score sheet upload process was one of the more laborious elements of it. We have figured out a different way to get the information that we need from handlers, so you no longer need to upload those score sheets. Right now in the Volunteer Center, until we can make a technology upgrade in the coming few weeks or few months, you will still see that step, but if you read the text, it'll say you don't need to upload. So you'll see it there, but you don't have to do it. We do encourage you, along with any other type of important paperwork, hang on to your score sheets. Always good to have them on file. We no longer need to have them uploaded into our system. Secondly, recently we had a team evaluator practicum in Nashville. Team evaluator practicums are where prospective team evaluators are assessed and licensed for the role. We haven't had one of those in a long time due to the pandemic, unfortunately. And it was really wonderful to see people come back together in a community where there were lots of folks who wanted to take that next step on their journey. They were able to do it together. So I just wanted to give a reminder, if you're in a community that has individuals interested in being evaluators, or you need more evaluators, we are happy to talk to you about holding an event in your community. But also, because of the pandemic, here's the bright side of not having as many practicums. We also learned how to pivot and have a fully online option to become a team evaluator for those of you who are interested. We also now have an option where you can be an apprentice with an already existing licensed evaluator. So lots of different options to become an evaluator, and we haven't talked about that at these quarterly lives recently. So for those of you who are listening live or listening to a recording and you've had interest in being an evaluator, just know we've got lots of options. We want to meet you where you're at. If you like in-person options, we want to make that happen. If you like virtual options, we want to make that happen. We really want to flex to you all as you step into that very important licensed role. Hate to end on a very difficult, sad note, but this is an important question that's been coming to us a lot in the last couple of weeks is Pet Partners responding to the Lewiston tragedy of the shooting that happened there in that community? The answer is yes, but in small ways right now. So last week, our animal assisted crisis response manager was in contact with some local Maine officials. As you can imagine, with the community still in lockdown or in shelter-in-place orders, they were not looking to have volunteer teams come in. That is something to keep in mind for those of you who are credentialed in animal-assisted crisis response, which you can do through Pet Partners. Sometimes we're not there right away. But in situations like this, the crisis is ongoing. Even the acute phase is ongoing. I mean, think about in Lewiston what the holidays are going to feel like. That is going to be a very acutely traumatic time for that community. And those are the types of times where our teams may go in. So last week, we had some conversations. They weren't ready. We are talking to them again this week. We do have a volunteer or two who are AACR credentialed who are doing some small scale visits. And we are on standby to continue to help that community. So we got a lot of questions about that. I just wanted to share here that we are doing what feels right for the community based on what the community needs. Just a logistical thing with Lewiston. Obviously, we understand New England is a geographically tight space. Maine teams who are credentialed are certainly going to be called upon. But potentially, if you're on parts of Massachusetts or Vermont, we consider this still part of Neighbors Helping Neighbors. You are still close enough to be able to deploy and help in that community in the coming weeks and months as they need our help and our services and our comfort that so many of our volunteers generously provide. So that's what's going on in Lewiston with Pet Partners. I do see that Bree's our colleague in the background here. She put up a link there about how to find out more about animal assisted crisis response. Please check that out. It's an interesting credential because you aren't going to be needed all the time, but when you are needed, you are really needed. So if you're somebody who sees the value in getting that additional education and training and being on standby, we would love to have you. It's something you can pursue after you've been a team for at least 6 months. So if you're prospective out there and you're listening, become a team first, learn more about general visits, and then you can layer in the specialized training to be able to deploy in those kinds of situations. Okay, great. Thanks, Renee. Renee is a local volunteer in Maine who has hopped on. She is exactly what I was talking about, being one of the first volunteers to go ahead and be able to directly interact with the people of Lewiston. And she mentions here school. And I was thinking about that too, like whenever an event like this happens and young people are getting back into routine, that can feel very traumatic, even though return to routine can. So I'm not surprised to hear that that's a place that we're being helpful. Mo asked a question here about getting on board with apprenticeships. So you're referring to when we place an interested prospective evaluator with an existing evaluator, we make those matches here at headquarters. Not every evaluator wants to take on an apprentice, and we want to be respectful of their time. They are volunteers too. So the best thing you can do is reach out to us. If you're interested in being a teacher, if you will, a mentor, or if you're interested in being apprentice, that is still in the early stages. We've only done that a few times, but we realized, hey, we've got so many great evaluators in communities around the country with a little bit of guidance and structure. Obviously, they can teach very, very well with our support as staff. So contact us. We're still figuring out how it's going to work on a larger scale. But it is a way to give that in-person option that some people want without having to do a large group event, which have been harder to organize in recent years for obvious reasons. I don't see a lot of other questions coming in here. So I think with that, I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you, Taylor, for coming. I appreciate it. Thank you, Bree, for running the technology on the back end. And thank you to all of you for attending and listening, asking good questions. And we hope to talk to you all very, very soon. Bye now.
Bye.